Welcome to the Go Procast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to Go Pro with Jeremy Torres. I love that mic drop, man. That's some heavy bass stuff. Old school, man. So today's guest is very, very special to me. Mike Aronowitz is an executive vice president of digital sales and strategy who oversees global sales and programs and the strategies behind them for Teleperformance. Prior to joining Teleperformance, Mike has served in executive leadership roles for companies such as Centerfield Media, Insurance Direct, Qology Direct, eBay Worldwide, and Monster Worldwide, where he developed online sales and platforms and led sales teams, operations, and call centers all over the world. Mike also was a founding member of Salesforce.com CMO Advisory Board. Please welcome my friend and mentor, Mike Aronowitz.
Wow, that's an incredible introduction, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. It's interesting when you hear about yourself, but great seeing you. And I'm so happy to be here today and talking to you. It's been a while. Read your book, and you're doing great. So let's bring it on.
Yes, I've had this one circled on the calendar for a long time. When I started this podcast, you had already been doing your Teleperformance podcast, and we had some discussions. And when I started my first iteration of this thing, you gave me some really great, valuable feedback. So I appreciate that. Chasing people like yourself has been what I do. And since that day I met you, oh man, about 12, 13 years ago, you have always been that person that's just right up there. You are where I want to be. And you're the kind of guy that leaves that ladder there, helps people up the ladder. So I appreciate that. I want to go back though and talk about little Mike, because people hear all these accolades and everything that you do, and they don't often understand all the work that goes into it. So tell us something about little Mike, about how you got turned on to sales. I know your dad had something to do with that. He was a big influence on you, right?
Yeah. So, every kid in New York wants to go on spring break in Florida, and when you're 15 years old, you don't have any money, you turn to your dad and your mom and you say, hey, going on spring break, can I get a couple bucks? And my dad said, no. And he was in the garment center and he said, hey, when I get home tomorrow, you and I are going to go out and earn some money. Sounded great. I thought I'd just go along for the ride. And he came home, and in his car, back in the garment center, they had all the extra materials they called rags. And we went down to a Sunoco station and he said, follow me. We went in there and he asked for the owner. He talked to the owner. The guy's name was Pat. They had a conversation back and forth. And next thing you know, we sold 4 bags of rags and made $20. I went, my dad's a rock star. This is going to be great. So we got in the car, went down the street, went to the next one, which is an Exxon station. And he looked at me and he goes, get out and sell. And I went, what? He goes, yeah. 2 things in life, son. No one gives you anything, and you got to learn how to talk to people. So I coached and mentored you and trained you. Now go out and sell. And I was shivering and shaking in my boots. And I went in there and bumbled, and who knows. And all I know is I came out of there with almost $40.
Wow.
I was like, this is great. Where are we going next? And we went and, we sold a car full of rags and made $100. And the lesson learned was early on, right? Believe in yourself. But if you don't know how to talk to people, and break down that wall, you can't be successful. You can't be scared all the time. So, early Mike, that was a story number 1. A story number 2, which I tell, and I don't know how many people know this or not about me, but since I'm opening up, I'll tell you, 15 years old, standing on a street corner, this guy by the name of John de Blasio comes up to me and says, hey, you want to learn karate? I'm like, yeah, karate. Oh, it's Tuesday. We'll do karate. And started doing karate, but up until that point in life, everything I quit. And I started to learn that dedication and discipline go hand in hand. Repetitiveness, doing things over and over. And in the martial arts, they don't give you anything. It's like white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, green belt, brown belt, black belt. right? And then a little bunch of stripes along the way. And just having him literally push me along and chop my legs out every time I thought I was too big and show me the way told me that, hey, nothing happens overnight.
Yeah.
And it took me 3.5 years to get my first black belt. And I learned about patience. So those are two little stories, a little Mike, that molded me that nothing is easy. You got to work hard. And if you don't outwork your opponent, you're going to lose.
So that's very telling. You know, it seems like you had success in everything you tried, that you didn't quit, which is really the point. Just showing up is half the battle every day and getting out of bed with a positive attitude. And even when you don't, in fact, when you don't want to get out of bed and you do anyway, and you get the job done, whatever the task is, it feels 10 times better than even when you want to do it, you know, even if it stinks and it's hard. So you mentioned something though, that, you know, going back and quitting a lot when you were a kid. How did your dad handle, and your parents, when you said, look, it's just not for me? Were they kind of just okay with it, or they just figured you know best, or disappointed?
No, my dad was not an easy person to grow up with. He was hard on us. He wasn't warm and hugging, and he had a bunch of different crazy rules, like quitters. Nobody quits, you know, no sore losers. So when you go out and play a game, you can't be a sore loser. You can't quit.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was we're ridiculed, you know, he ridiculed us as a kid. He was hard on us. And, you know, he just, that's the way parents were back then. They would ridicule you and call you a loser for quitting, you know, rather than showing you ways to, here's how to do it the right way. Just a sign of the times.
So the sales bug got in you at an early age. And I mean, your resume is just so extensive with the world's biggest companies. How do you get kind of involved in getting on that success cycle where you just kind of go from one huge opportunity to another one? What the early times when you were learning and crafting, who were your mentors? Who were you looking up to then?
You know, a couple of pointers, right? That you're only as good as the people around you, and you're only as smart as the people in the room. And there's a combination of luck, paying your dues, and being in the right place in the right time and working really hard. And I'll always say, you got to outwork the person that's competing for your job, competing to win your business, and competing in sales. So, you know, at each one of the organizations that I've worked with on the way up, it started with a major failure, right? Out of school, I went and got a job and moved to Tampa and worked for Mutual of Omaha. And I was going to be this great sales insurance person, and I was going to be the greatest sales insurance person in the world. And over 13 months, I probably had the electricity turned off a couple of times, and the water, and our furniture was lawn furniture because we couldn't afford anything, right? Down and out. And, you know, when you're in the dumps, right, you either got two things to do, right? You got to look adversity in the eye and understand why you're failing.
Yep.
And check your ego at the door. So I fought back. And one of my early mentors at Monster, right, and I'll leave the names out of this because I don't have their permission, but he was an Excel wizard, right? And so this is, you know, 1998, 1999. He's an Excel wizard. And awesome. I had to do this thing for Excel, and I went in there and I'm like, hey, you're an Excel wizard. Could you show me how to do this? And he went, yeah, let me show you how to do it. And he went in there and he said, I just sent you the email how to do it. And I got so excited, right, for a meeting. The meeting was go online and learn how to use Excel, right? he taught me early mentor on that, hey, we're here to help you and guide you, but you got to do it yourself.
Yes.
Right. So, you know, learned early on at Monster that competition, right? Being ahead of the curve. But I was surrounded by really good, talented people where we came to work every day and were motivated to win. But we also knew that you're not going to win everything. You're going to lose. So when you had a bad day and things didn't go right, you had someone to help you up and say it's going to be okay and explain it to you. So I was really lucky in that role there, learning the ropes, as they say, with some really great people.
It sounds like you had good leaders that understood how to create a healthy work environment that kept it competitive, but not disruptive competitive, where they had respect. And
Well,
back then it was not, you didn't have any worry about being disruptive or rude or downright obnoxious or obscene, right?
I mean, you and I worked in a disruptive environment for a very aggressive CEO that, would take no for an answer. And, KYB, learn your business,
Yes,
and
that's
so,
right.
I've worked for passive CEOs and aggressive CEOs, but, again, if you know your business and you're confident in your abilities and articulate, your numbers and things, then they believe in you, right?
Yes,
But what you do find with some smart people is that you can't be a yes person,
that's
so
right.
you gotta go in the room and present your ideas and concepts. And good CEOs or CEOs, they knock you down and they say that's a bad idea, and they see if you
Yeah,
walk out with your head down or you present the facts and explain to them and sell them why it's a
yeah,
good idea. Because if you don't believe in it, they're not going to believe in it. So,
yeah.
I've been lucky enough to be around really successful, hardworking people, but they taught me that the first no, like in sales, you just don't get a yes. Lots of times you get a no. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't really look good. Hey, 4 to 6 no's before you get a yes.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right. Go for no, right?
Yeah.
Every no is, these days is not yet. And I want to kind of stay in order because I have specific
Yep.
timelines that I want us to go, but you keep bringing up all these great points that I just got to take a note on it. But one of the things though, that I want to just go back and unpack for 1 second is outworking and competing with yourself. And I think that what differentiated me from anything in my past successes is no one could outwork me. And that's with an exclamation, not a period. First in, last to leave, asking everyone, looking over shoulders, trying to learn everything I can because it takes me so long to learn. But once I learn, I want to master it. And I never knew I was competitive because I wasn't a sports kid. I was a music kid. And
Mhm.
so, man, when I found out, and this was only a couple years ago, that I am competitive against myself, like uber competitive, very hard on myself. And I sat back actually, writing the book during COVID is really when I started getting the picture coming into focus that the effort that you put in will out distance talent and skill and kind of knowing what the right thing to say is all the time because people notice the effort, especially if you're good with the CEO. But really, where you are resonating with me is for the different CEOs that you worked for, the different leaders you worked for, you were still just you, no matter if they were passive or aggressive. Your values is something that you had a very good understanding of, and you walked those every day, no matter who you were answering to. Is that a fair statement?
It's a fair statement. It goes back to early on, if you ask, what molded me, I think the intangible that people bring to the table are their uniqueness, right? I always try to surround myself with different personalities, different types of persons who bring different opinions for them to be themselves, right? You can't be anyone else other than yourself. And I learned early on, that no one's going to change who I am. I'm still going to,
Yeah.
if I believe in it, I'm going to do it. But you are your own person, and no one wants a yes person. People want someone that can admit they failed, but
Yeah.
they also want someone that's going to say, hey, we can do this, and here's how we do it. And you have to believe in yourself. And I think that stems early on from, I go back to the martial arts, right?
Mm.
Where, hey, you work your butt off and, and you go to the testing list and you look for your name and it's not there. And you have two choices. You can quit, right? Or you can work your butt off again,
Yeah.
right? And see if you make the list, because in the martial arts, you can't ask why I wasn't promoted. You can't ask why I'm on the list. You got to sit there and say, thank you, sensei. That's
Right.
it. Right. Because
Trusting them.
it's you're not ready. There's no excuse. Like if you're ready, your name's on the list. If you're not ready, it's not on the list. So I learned early on, it's that you got to make a presence. You go in front of the room, perform your form, you spar, whatever. You got to make that impression. And if you're just average, you're passed over. So it starts early on in life.
Yeah, and that's one of the few sports that really you don't have anyone to blame but yourself, right? There's no teammates letting you down, and no
Yeah.
schemes or tactics that they're not calling your number. It's all you. So it does have an impact. And I went through the same thing in my 20s. I got into martial arts, but by then, I don't know. I guess I was just had a really big transformation. So really, I guess it must have had a big impact on me without even realizing it. So speaking of transitioning, as you transition from sales from floor and picking up the phone, and that's a little foreshadowing for one of the questions coming up, picking up the 500-pound phone, doing all the calls and dialing. How did you transition into leadership? Was that something that was quite natural for you, leading people, teaching? Did you have a teaching heart?
That desire to grow, right? And that desire to grow a line of business, somehow I fell into some of these roles where it wasn't planned. It's just, you demonstrate that you want the position. You have to ask for the position. Things don't come to you. Just like in sales, you have to ask for the order. So if there's a position that you want, ask for it. And you went back to mentors. I had some good mentors who said, hey, you're not ready for it today, but you may be ready for it 6 months from now. So, when I joined eBay, I went from Monster to eBay, and it was just a whirlwind of, opportunity. But with that opportunity comes, to the right, to the left, to the back, to the front, just smart, talented people that are also willing to outwork you. And, you're looking around the room and you're going, I'm not even the third or fourth smartest guy in the room here. How am I going to, get ahead? But you learn that you learn your skill and you learn your craft. And again, it's confidence, right? And so with me, I always want to help people because people have helped me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you build a team, teaching and training and mentoring is really important. I go today by, you always hear they say, oh, one throat to choke. No, I'd rather have one hand to shake, right? And you say that. So I look around some of the people like you, and I won't name names, but someone who was my assistant at one of the jobs is running a company now. Like, she brought me coffee and lunch, right? So
right, I know who you're talking about.
Right. So
Superstar.
like, super smart people, right? But give people a chance. So again, it's be around smart people, and that. Having said that, you're only a good leader if the people believe in you, right? So you can't appoint someone to be a leader and then no one wants to follow, right? So we've all been around people who have been, sales managers, sales directors, and you look up and you go, how'd they get the job, right?
Yeah.
What happened here, right? And if they're not going to follow that individual and run through a wall for them, it's not a good fit too. So, you can just become a leader, but that doesn't mean 25 or 30 people are going to just follow you.
No, and I think it's a two-way street. And one of the things that I always kind of believed is that your mentors will just kind of present themselves to you. I've Marcus Aurelius and the stuff he wrote, meditations about how life evolves, and it's all kind of laid out in front of you, but it's the action that's the hard part. It's really just buying into it and doing it, and even going through the bad stuff and being grateful for it. But when you open yourself up like that, mentors really do put themselves, from my very first one to yourself and to people after that, who changed my life when I started saying, wow, this person is here for a reason. And really what showed me the best mentors that I've ever had, and leaders for that point, is they asked me more questions than I asked them. They didn't tell me what to do. They asked my opinion, and they gave me some rope to be accountable. And I never had a problem taking the rope and kind of making a whip out of it, rather than, taking it, and tripping over it.
I can't tell you how many times I've said to myself, that's a really good idea in my head. And then I go, that's not going to work. That's terrible. Just to challenge the person to see, again, if they're going to go, oh, okay. Or they're going to say, no, Mike, you're wrong.
Wow.
Here's why. Boom, boom, boom. You're like, oh, okay.
I'm going to use that one. I like that.
So
I'm going to use that one.
Sometimes, as people, again, coming up through the ranks, they don't realize that the people managing them are challenging them, right? To see if they truly believe in what they're presenting, right? And again, if you go back to sales, right?
Yeah.
You buy from who you believe in and who you trust. And, people have always, I do a lot of the sales seminars and training, and I tell people, you're not an agent, you're an expert in the field that you're in, right? Be an expert, be that person.
Yeah.
When you go to the doctor and you walk in there, told the story 100 times, right? You walk in and the doctor looks at you, throat, ear, nose. If the doctor went, Jeremy, it could be bronchitis, it may be a strep throat or an ear infection, I'm not really sure. Take these, I'm going to give you a prescription, come back in a week and we'll figure it out. You'd never go back to that doctor.
Yeah, right.
But you walk in there and they got the white coat and you waited and they got the degree on the wall and they look in and, do all these things. And he goes, strep throat, should be fine in 10 days. I'm going to give you 2 prescriptions. You walk out, I got strep throat. You never question it. Right. So whatever product you're selling, you need to be that expert. You need to be the person who they believe, and whether that's face-to-face, on the phone, through chat, however you're doing that these days, you need to know your business and be the expert. And then you don't have to ask for the sale. But if people pick up in the first 30 or 60 seconds that you don't know what you're talking about,
right,
you're done.
And that's where, Simon Sinek, my favorite sales thing, is about, the whys, how Apple does it. They create that feeling. And once you learn that trick, that you're talking to someone, asking them certain questions, and you get to figure out their whys, and then you can play on that emotion to get to their feelings, because it bypasses the part of the brain that has speech, because the feelings, your gut feeling.
Yep.
The yeses are going to come because now they're not buying anything. They're trying to feel good. And you fed that feeling, you created it. So I call salespeople creators, really. You want to create that energy and trust, and you're creating all these things. So you kind of stepped right into it, and I appreciate it. But the sales process for people these days, Mark Noodleberg, everyone knows I'm a Noodleberg Mark, right? Not only Mark, but his dad, Steve. But they have a great system on creating relationships, personal relationships, not transactional, and making yourself that subject matter expert, a thought leader, in posting every day and reaching out to the people, creating this orbit that you want. But on a sales platform like Teleperformer, a global network, you still have to kind of use old school tactics to reach people. But the new way to do sales with the relationship building, how are these two kind of merging or separating in the fabric of sales? How are you grasping it, leveraging it?
I'm old. There's different personalities. The younger millennial coming up, they buy completely different than an old pro like me, right? So, you have to be fluid in your teachings, right? You have to understand first the marketing methodology of where that call, chat, email, or where it's coming from. Is it search? Is it paid search? Is it affiliate? Is it, is it direct mail? Is it TV? You got to know your customer. Yeah. So the first thing, you have to do when you're teaching someone whatever you're selling is they have to understand the customer and where it's coming from. Did they see a radio spot, a TV spot? Was it a paid search ad? Did it come off of a blog? Is it a third-party lead? So, because not every call and not every chat's the same. There's different mechanisms. So you need to be more educated today than you were 10 or 15 years ago into the type of customer that's coming to you to buy. And then you have to understand that as they're talking to you, they could be on their phone, their laptop, and they could see the price. They could see the promotions. They could see what's going on. So you can't be disingenuous. You have to be genuine, right?
Yes.
So again, you have to really know your craft. And you have to understand the art of selling is a conversation and trust. So today we spend a lot more time making sure that they have the right profile to succeed in the line of business, whether it's B2B or B2C, inbound, outbound. You have to have the right profile, the right DNA. A good door knocker may not be a good inbound guy, and vice versa. Your inbound salesperson to go knock on a door is petrifying.
Right.
So again, it's hiring and training the right person to give them the tools and technologies to succeed. No shortcuts.
So you're like, you must listen to this a lot. Like we're so in sync. Because my next question is, how do you find your leaders and what do you look for in them? And that could be a sales team or any sort of leaders that you work with.
So you've worked with me before. To me, it's about honesty and transparency. Like, I don't want a leader that tells me they know everything, right? But I also don't want a leader that doesn't challenge me, right? I also know you got to earn your dues and pay your dues, right? So you got to hone your craft and work your way up and understand that. So you have to, again, ask, but the best leader to me is someone that says to their boss, their director, someone, hey, how do I get my opportunity? How do I grow in the company, right? How do I get to that next level? Because, in a call center environment with 100 agents who now work from home, how do you stand out from the crowd? So you only stand out from the crowd is when, you present and ask and say, hey, what can I do to advance my career? It's you're selling yourself. Who's better to sell yourself than yourself? And some of the greatest talent doesn't get recognized because of the people who ask for the promotion or the next opportunity. And you have to go out and create your own brand. Your brand is different than my brand, but that's part number two. Part number one. Part number two, hard work and dedication, working with people. Opportunities come up when someone goes, oh man, I know who that guy is. That's Jeremy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Your reputation, though.
Reputation is everything. Right. Yeah. And I can't stress enough, like burning bridges, walking out of companies, meltdowns. I didn't get that. Like, it's all about reputation. And as you get older and wiser, you understand the networking of the world is so powerful. Yes. Opportunities come along from the network that you've built, LinkedIn and other places. So, finding talent is really hard, but you have to build a professional network. And there's no better reference than someone referring you.
That's right. Yeah. The introduction probably is the only thing that trumps the referral.
Yeah.
But that's about, again, the referral and the network that we build. And speaking of working from home, I know that you were running call centers and you worked in a sales platform in organizations, but then it branched out to national kind of footprints and then global across the ocean. Where we worked, we had stuff over in the islands and things. What challenges have you faced with decentralized management? How did you handle those? And now that it seems like everyone's decentralized because they're all at home, even if it's a certain local business, how do you deal with the decentralized management on each of those levels, the local, national, and global? What kind of tools have you found?
I would tell you, Jeremy, you got to be super organized. It's work-life balance, super organized. And again,
Bam.
You got to have good people around you. Like you can't be global. You can't have 5 or 6 sales centers, 20 sales centers, hundreds, and not have a good team. You can't do it all yourself. Right. So I always go back to, and if you're a leader, right, and you're in a meeting on Zoom today and you're managing 6 or 8 people, right, where are you in that pecking order? Are you the smartest? And if you keep going to these meetings and you're the smartest one in each one of those meetings, to me, inherently, you're going to fail, right? Because I want to be around people that are smarter than me, that know more than me, and they're going to make me look really shine at the end.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that's a number one challenge that leaders, middle managers have is that person going to take my job? Are they going to be better than me? Are they going to rise through the ranks faster? But when you're now all over the globe, you need great people everywhere, right? So, if I can give anybody a tip, it's like, hey man, work with the smartest, best people you can. That's don't in sales, there's no shortcuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you think that many people kind of come through sales and then go into other parts of business? Marketing and sales often get kind of jumbled up and people think it's the same. It's really way different. But sales is an easy entry for somebody, especially somebody who, like myself, who didn't go to college, didn't really have opportunity. Sales is always something you could do. I help a lot of realtors out with training because the number one way to wealth in the United States is real estate. But after they get to learn the basics and then they understand the different elements, what do you like other than kind of managing sales? What other parts of the business turn you on?
I like when we launch things right from the ground up. So when you get a new client, right, you win the business, but now you have to launch the business and get it going and growing the business and getting more talented people. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
As I get older, you get wiser, so you don't make the same mistakes that you've made in the past. So
God willing.
going back to what you said, like leveraging the experience that I have with newbies who are coming on board to help train them. Like I love still to this day to do focus groups and training groups with agents who are starting out and help them, and then find out 2 or 3 days later, they send you an email, I got a sale. You're like, yeah.
Yes.
Right? That's the part of the business I like now. I also like giving back to the community and doing other things, right? So, sales is, if you can sell, you can succeed in anything, I believe. Right?
Yes.
Because people trust you and like you, and that's why they buy from you.
Yeah, and community, it's kind of like I just love spending money on coaches. I spend so much money. So I say I could have gone to Harvard. I have a knowledge education, not a college education, because I just believe that paying people who know a lot more than you and paying them because they're going to give you a lot more that way. I have a coach who tells me, LBC, life, business, community. And now for me, life and business are so intertwined. There's no difference because I live business, but my kids are old now, they're adults. My wife, who, I met there through that company. She's just a humongous go-getter. So that's our enjoyment is our life business, but community, you cannot cut that off. You have to give back. And, like I talked earlier about working with teenagers and helping them transition to business knowledge and kind of exposure who don't think they can go to college. And that's fine. That's what I like, because that's what I was at. But that's really the most important part, is how many people you help.
Yeah.
Is really how far you're going to go. Yeah, definitely. More than that knowledge, even outworking people at a certain point, you see kind of the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
How do you define success at the end of the day? I know throughout your career, you have different phases in your life, but these days, what does that look like to you?
So life success has changed over the years, what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right. So if you would have asked me 10 or 15 years ago what success looked like, it'd be like climbing up the ladder, being in charge, getting more money.
Yeah.
Today's success is waking up every day and being happy. Like if you can wake up every day and be happy and go to bed happy, life is good. Right.
Right.
And when you get to that point, right. And we talked about this earlier, right? I know a lot of people that are successful and have money and are miserable. I can't understand it. They work their whole life, they achieve success, they have money, and they're miserable. And I look at them sideways and I see other people that may not be as financially successful. They're successful in business and life, and they're extremely happy, right? So to me, success is being happy, right? You wake up, you want to win, you go to bed, it was a good day, it was a bad day. But man, if you're not happy, then why are you doing it? Like there's no reason to get up every day and be miserable. And yet you and I both know miserable people, and they choose to be miserable. So to me, success is happy. But I will tell you, there's people who still to this day like to knock your legs out from underneath you, right? So I tell this funny story, right? Giving back to the community and working. My daughter played softball. I was a softball coach, played travel. We just won the Florida State Championship, right? For 12-year-olds, these 12-year-old kids, right? We won the Florida State Championship, and we're on the top of the world now. We're on our way to ESPN Worlds, and now we're going to try to be the World Series of softball champions.
Wow.
And a parent comes up to me and, hey, Mike, you got a minute? I'm like, yeah. He goes, hey, I just want to let you know, so-and-so's not coming back next season. We found another team, and, we think it's a better fit. And I said, oh, why? You guys moving, out of the area? He said, no, you're just not a good coach. And I was like, Lord. I was like, what? He goes, you're not a good coach, man. You don't yell at the kids enough. You're not on them enough, we feel there's better coaching out there. Like, what do you say, right? You just won the pinnacle of the state, right? And here's someone that's saying you're not that good. So going back to what I said earlier is that I'm not going to let it affect me, right? Because I expect you can't please everyone. Okay.
That's true.
Right. Yeah. So, you got to be who you are, right? I can't sit and then argue with and try to tell this guy why I'm a great coach. He doesn't believe it. Right. Yeah. But that came early on from learning about sales, that not everyone's going to buy from you. You call 10 people, 2 are going to hang up. Yeah. I got 8 left. If I can sell 4 of the 8, I'm closing to 50%. I'm the best guy in the room. Law of averages, right? Yeah. Law of averages. You can't teach that. So you and I are also talking earlier about, right? How do you identify the right people? I can tell you now in 3 minutes. Tell me your name, tell me your last job, tell me a little about yourself if you're going to succeed, right? Here's the trick, right? You tell someone, stand up, tell me who you are, last place you worked, right? Something about yourself. And the person gets up really slow and my name is Mike. They're not going to make it. Person jumps up, tells you, boom, 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 boom. That person's going to make it. They believe in themselves. Energy, right? Yeah. So I gave you a lot there, but people are as successful as you think you are, someone's going to take your legs out. And if you let that bother you, you can't get to that next level of success, right? Yeah. Brady throws an interception. He's like, all right, I threw my pick. I'm going back, right? Next. Yeah.
Yeah. Goldfish, memory like a goldfish. Yep. And it comes through happiness too, because I have being competitive and just being having the childhood I had and being exposed to a lot of major crap. I've got major rage issues. I still to this day have major rage issues, but you learn how to control it. But inside, you're burning. And so I always say, "How's your day?" I had a great day. Had a really bad hour. I never had a bad day. At least try not to. And a couple times, things that happen in life will ruin your day. Certain tragedies. But short of 9/11 or losing a family member, there's nothing worth ruining a day for, because we just don't get that many of them. I can spare a couple hours and you acknowledge it.
Phone calls, people hang up on you. You're going to let it bother you? Like, okay, it's part of my job. Like, I'm not going to win every deal, right? I'm not going to win every deal. But I'm going to win most of them because I'm going to outwork you. And I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm going to roll it off. I know 4 to 6 no's get me 1 yes, right? It's basic fundamentals, right? You got to have, to be successful, you got to have basic fundamentals. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself, and you got to like yourself, right? 2 believes in myself, because you got to really believe in yourself, but you got to like yourself. Right? Yeah. If you don't like yourself, Jeremy, then what are you doing this for, right?
That's right. Yeah, it should be lighting a candle, itching a scratch. What you get up in the morning to do is see the benefits of helping people, right? If you look at yourself like a problem solver, I'm not selling anything. I'm solving a problem in your life, and that's the key to sales, I think. Well, there's a lot of those, but I like that believe, and like. I'm going to use that one.
Cool.
So, we're coming to the end of this. We could talk for hours, but people just don't have the patience anymore to sit here and listen to long form, unless your name is Joe Rogan, which mine is not, not yet. But what can we do to help you? What do you got going on? Where can we find you? I know that you're big on LinkedIn, like I am.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You asked me earlier, what I like is helping people. I wish more people would reach out and ask for advice and help. I have a few people doing that. I'll always do it all the time. Nothing brings me more greater happiness than seeing people like you and other people I've worked with being successful, being happy and growing, and when I see them, if I worked with you for an hour or 10 years, like watching people grow. So, I would say if anybody watches this and they want advice of a person who knows a lot, reach out. I'll be more than happy to help people, because I think if it's what you said earlier, and I know this, I've had people in my life that have picked me up and carried me over the finish line. And if I didn't have them, it's like, where would I be today?
Yeah.
Right. But I've also had people who have looked me in the eye and said, stop whining, get it done. You took a shortcut. Right. So you need that balance. You can't have those yes, yes, yep, sure,
Right.
yeah. Like, hey, man, every once in a while, you need a swift kick in the butt to straighten you out. But you also need to say, hey, you know what? It wasn't my A game. I didn't bring my A game, and here's why, but it's okay. So
yeah,
that's why, find me on LinkedIn. Let me know how I can help anyone, and be more than happy to help.
Yeah, I can vouch, just for putting my stuff out there. And, I went through a really bad rough patch and just kept grinding every day. But I wrote about you in the book that you gave me you really gave me self-confidence back. You were the person where I was never as low in my professional career as the day that I was started on in that company. And when I got in front of you and some other people who valued my opinion, listened to what I had to say, and you gave me my self-confidence back. And I've never, ever looked back. So you are the catalyst who got me here today. And there is no looking back, because for me, success is always getting better and just learning something new.
You're one of those guys that would challenge me and look me in the eye and say, here's how I'm going to get my numbers. Here's how I'm going to do my plan. Here's how I'm going to get there. Right. And again, I've challenged many people seeing great plans, saying that's a terrible plan. Why would you do that? Right. But hey, great pleasure talking to you, and just you having this format and you helping other people makes me feel like, wow, just seeing you grow and seeing where you are today, it's amazing, right? To say where you came from, but you always had that talent. It wasn't like the talent wasn't there. You just didn't know how to bring it out, right? So guys like me and other people, James Flynn, we sometimes gave you a hug and sometimes we gave you a punch, but we knew what we had working with you.
Well, I can't tell you what it means to me. And there was a stumbling block that got me in there, and it was a humongous stepping stone I never would have had without that stumbling block. We talk a lot about on this show about failures, and the biggest thing that got you where you were, you wouldn't be here without that. And I always go back to those days. If I hadn't lost that business and had the opportunity to be around and exposed to people like you, James, even, Brett and Vince and some other people that, quite frankly, changed the way I viewed people and just even myself. When I went back to my tacit knowledge of construction, I treated people a lot differently, man. I knew business a lot better and treated it like a business owner. So kudos to
all those names. And one thing we all had in common, that we would fight each other to be more successful, but as a unit, no one could beat us. Right?
That's right.
So we all ran different parts of the business and wanted to succeed. Right. And always wanted to outperform the other line of business there. But together, collectively, no one would ever stop us, because we all knew as when we got into that conference room together, we're going to go win as a group. Right.
Yeah. So, one thing, and to say what I learned most about that time too, really what stuck out of my head is our leader, and us being leaders, and our leader example. You were supposed to bring your weakness to those boardrooms. I can't figure this out, because the people in that room collectively could. And so having that vulnerability to say, I trust you guys, here's a problem that I'm having. If I can get over this, this would change things. And being in that room, I've never been around people where I could trust when you walked out, they weren't going to ridicule you or talk bad about you or 86 you for bringing that problem. In fact, you were rewarded. And if you came to that meeting and didn't have a problem, then you were ridiculed because you're not being honest, because your stuff stinks.
We talked about that earlier, right? Trust and honesty, being around people that you could look and say, I'm stuck here, guys. Help me out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
huge difference.
You brought up something, and again, I know we're going a little long. You brought up something,
That's
though,
okay.
right?
No, we're done.
You walk into that room, there's no egos. Right?
Yeah.
You're surrounded by people that want to win. So, again, we had people around us that were super competitive. But there was no blah, 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 blah. We come there every day to win as a group. And, everyone knew each other's shortfalls and everyone knew each other's weaknesses. So we play off of each other and make us better. And so, again, a pleasure talking to you. I'd love to help.
Unfortunately, guys, that's the way this one had to end. I had an electrical strike outside and it cut my internet off. So We lost signal there, but I wanted to thank Mike Aronowitz immensely for his time today with the GoProcast. I hope you all learned as much from Mike as I know I did. And thank you all for watching and listening here today on the GoProcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.